We are joined today by Raina Mullen, singer, songwriter, and member of American Babies and Ghostlight. Ghostlight has just released their sophomore effort, The Healing, which pushes the boundaries of what an already diverse group of musicians bring to the table. Owing as much to alt rockers like Radiohead as the jam band scene as to the 70s singer songwriters, we are excited to see where they can take this. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm well. I'm excited to have a day off of work and do some music stuff.
Nice. Yes, I did peek in at your LinkedIn. You are a delivery person?
My LinkedIn. I like do so poorly at updating that. I work at a local pet store now, actually.
Uh,
Trying to get out of it as soon as possible,
right.
but
I hear you.
it's cute, you know. It's a really small shop, but obviously I love playing music, so I would much rather do that. So I teach lessons online or in person if they live close. But yeah, I really like teaching lessons to like kids from like 10 to 18, but also all ages. I love teaching. It's so fun. Plus, at least I can be in the music vein if I do that. So on the downtime.
I want to jump in with the quote unquote elephant in the room. Holly is leaving the band. Can you give us any info on that? What's going to happen? Are we getting another keyboard player? You going to be a four piece?
We don't want to go on as a four piece. We do want to find another piano player. It's a big loss for the shape of the band. But there's plenty of musicians out there that I think would be a great fit. We're sort of compiling a list and taking it slow because it's not something that you want to rush into. Just like any relationship, like it's a relationship, you want to find the right fit of like um, someone who's fun to hang out with, someone who understands what you do live as a band, having the same goals, and uh, someone you feel comfortable creating with because it's a very personal relationship in a band. You see all sides of each other when you're doing the day to day stuff when you're on tour.
Oh, I
Um,
imagine on the road, everybody has a bad morning.
Everybody has a bad morning and you just have to like go with the flow. Right now, our group, um, without Holly, like we have such a fun time. So, I really look forward to seeing who we find, sort of doing like, I guess, auditions and stuff. We don't have a plan at the moment, just because it was a hell of a December long tour. And then our last show, and there's things you have to figure out when someone leaves a band. So we're still sort of in the middle of that, and yeah, we just don't want to rush it. But I really can't wait to see what the next chapter holds for the band. Um, I love what we do, and I think that it's different from some of the other bands in the scene. And it was special having two females in the band, like me and her. But whether it be a female or a male that joins the band, you know, I don't think it really matters. But um,
Right.
yeah, it was nice having that like female energy. But I'm still in the band, baby. I ain't going nowhere.
I watched some YouTube videos where I'm just going to take it totally off track
Sure.
of you doing duets with Holly. Nick of Time, Radiohead song, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. You know, it reminded me of, let me just say this. I am a huge Laura Nero fan. And watching the two of you, I was just like, they should do a Laura Nero song together. But
I don't
you,
know
you
who
want,
that is. I should write that name down.
oh, yeah, she has an album called New York Tend to Berry that's
New.
just fantastic. She wrote a bunch of songs that you would know, like Eli's Coming by Three Dog Night. She wrote that.
Okay.
And Stone Soul Picnic that the Fifth Dimension did. So some other, but New York Tenderberry, check that out. I just could totally hear the with her playing and your vocal. It was, but so how did that come about? I totally went off track.
Well, the Radiohead cover of Black Star. Gosh, reflecting on that, it seems like ages ago because it was so long ago. That was before the pandemic, and even like a year before the pandemic. So, um, that I heard I think it's a Gillian Welch cover of that tune. Black Star, and I just loved how that felt. And we did play that live as Ghostlight a few times, which was really fun. But the piano version that she and I did, I think that's a video of us playing at like Ardmore Music Hall. Um, I just liked having that acoustic feeling. I love acoustic music. Like I grew up playing acoustic guitar. That's how I learned to play singer-songwriter like through and through. So that's forever embedded in my like musical essence. So if ever I get to like do acoustic stuff, I feel like there's real intimacy in what I can bring like vocally at least to that. And with the Bonnie Raitt cover, there's a great Bonnie Bear cover that he does. It's got a ton of views on YouTube, but I've watched it a million times. And I
You've
love the
contributed.
way, yeah, that he arranged that those two songs together, and we sort of did our version, and then she improvises a little bit at the end, and so do I. And I thought it was really magical. That was like the one thing we did over the real period of lockdown when she traveled across the country doing her like wilderness sessions, and that was the first time we had gotten together since the beginning of the pandemic. So it felt really special. I wanted to record it. I was like, let's just create something together. And that was at Tom's studio in North Philly. And he's got a wonderful space where we made the second album. We spent a lot of time in there, and I like helped paint the walls when we put it all together because it was a bare room. So he built the control room in that. And now it's a really special space that hopefully will create the next album in. Um, so it was nice to film something in there, and that was sort of the start of getting back into creating music at that moment in time.
Where do we want to go, Amanda?
Well, first, I just want to say that when you were talking about kind of where you all are right now, it just reminded me of a quote that I had seen that Tom had said about the healing, which is something like, the story is not so much about the fallout as the recovery. And I was just listening to you, and I'm like, if there's anyone that's poised to, like you said, really embrace what the next chapter is going to be, I feel like it's all of you, just reading what's been said about the album and kind of where it comes from. So to me, I just felt like you're almost living some of that in some degree. It's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know, maybe I'm totally like extrapolating.
No, I think you're spot on. It's funny how I feel like life imitates art, and then art imitates life, and then it's full circle, and then the songs sort of change meaning to you personally over that amount of time. Like some of the songs on the album we've had for a while, but the more that you play them, the more they evolve and change meaning. And in the healing, the title of the record itself, like we're still healing. Like it's a never ending process, I think. And life is always changing. So like having Holly leave the band, we have a little bit of healing to do as a group, but if anything, it just makes us stronger as a core, and we're more dedicated to the goal of the band and moving forward instead of being like, oh, it's a hiccup, like everything is ruined. It's not like that. That's not how life works. You move forward, and you find a way through, and it is a new chapter, like and I think that's exactly like even how the album is sort of unfolding even more. Like we released it in October, so we're not that far into the cycle. It's like, why would we stop promoting the album just because someone leaves the band? And it's funny too because our we had a bass player who played on the album. We finished recording, and then he got a different project that he wanted to pursue, and we accepted that, and we found another bass player, and he's a perfect fit. Like it's just funny how that thing works out. It's like one person leaves, maybe somebody better comes in. I love that. No matter how hard it is, also like
You mentioned the new album. You want to walk through the process as you begin to write and record a record?
uh some of the songs, yeah, we had for a while. Well, I had for a while because I wrote about like half or a majority of the tunes by myself, and that sort of develops like me and acoustic guitar, a moment of inspiration. I try to write down as many lyrics as I can and like do voice memos. I've got like tons of voice memos from those early demos. And then Tom and I workshop those tunes together, and then we bring in our drummer, and Tom
Were
plays
they the
drums.
enhanced songwriting sessions
I
that I
mean,
read about?
the first album was pretty enhanced on some crazy stuff, but the second album a little bit less so, more, mushrooms, but not wild. Like we just do a little bit, and it helps open it up a little bit. That like microdosing world is like definitely a world that we all live in.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a special thing, and I love that you don't have to go overboard to reach a new place. Um and it just changes your perspective a little bit, and that's exactly what those drugs are for. If they're used correctly.
Right.
So, the process of writing those songs just sort of came about with me and Tom and our drummer, who also lives in Philly. He's moving to Denver in March, so it might be a little bit different for the next writing process. But uh, yeah, we started fleshing out the bones of those tunes, and Tom had some old demos from previous albums with American Babies that he brought to the table. He was like, these could be musically a really good fit for the songs that you also have. So the way that we work isn't like, oh, we're going to write a whole fresh batch of songs. It's just like a collection of pieces over time. And that's what I think is really special too, is like, we never rushed the process with album one or album two. And album one was different, where like we had never played a show as a band together before,
Which I
and we
loved.
also had a yeah, and we also had a different bass player, and we
Oh,
were
who's that?
his name was Steve, and he just didn't want to tour anymore, so he
Oh, I was
left.
talking about your cat popping
Oh,
in the
oh, my
screen.
cat, yeah.
And you're like, Steve. That was great.
Oh, he likes to be in the action.
Like, that's incredible.
um so yeah, I lost track. We demo out the songs, and then we bring them to the rest of the band, and Tom plays drums and piano, so he sort of like wrote some of those parts for that
But
are on the album.
when you were writing when you were doing the album, the first one, I guess especially, you were thinking of the songs in the context of being studio artifacts. This is what the song is, as opposed to what a lot of jam bands do, which is, oh, we played this song live, but we have to put out an album. How do we make it fit into that format?
Hmm. Yeah, we in the first record we liked building like a soundscape, in that sounds completely different from what we do live. But with this second record, I think there's more elements of what the band does um, live on the second record. Just like more improvising. The songs are a little bit longer, and uh, we wanted to keep it more simplified, arrangement wise. We didn't want to do a lot of overdubs. We like recorded in a circle in the main space of the studio all at the same time. So that I think was really special. We did like a lot of takes of certain songs just to make sure the feeling was right. No click track, just all feeling. Um, and that's not something I feel like a lot of bands do nowadays. At least they like, okay, let's get the drums down to the click track. Let's add the guitar, like that kind of process. And I'm glad that we didn't do that. It was hard, but it was a great learning experience.
I'm curious. So I was taking a look recently at your SoundCloud page,
Oh,
because I'm always curious to know like what's there. Because a lot of times that becomes its own artifact, of where people have been and what they've done. And the one thing that
hmm.
kind of struck me about that, and I'm curious to know if this you feel influences your songwriting, or just the choice of songs you might even want to cover, things like that. I mean, it goes from like folk, indie, pop. There's trance in there, if I remember correctly. I was like, I love this. I just love the variations on genres, because to me that's the best, when you can feel things weaving together. Like, do you bring that to what you write, not only for Ghostlight, but even your own stuff?
Absolutely. I have such a wide taste of music, um, because that's how you like learn how to write different things, is like you can't limit yourself to just like one genre. And I definitely feel like Ghostlight doesn't do that. Like we get really heavy in certain tracks and live, which um I love the darkness of that musical element, like Soundgarden, 90s grunge world that Tom brings to the table, because that's the stuff that he grew up loving. And then also obviously like the Grateful Dead. um but yeah, I think all of those like genres continue to help me develop my songwriting style. Like I love pop music. I'm forever addicted to like uh a great pop hook. And I grew up listening to like Fallout Boy and like pop punk music. And um it's funny, like I didn't get into jam band world music until I want to say 2014, 2015. I started working at the Capitol Theater, and I got a job doing hospitality there. And like my first dead
It's like trial by
experience,
fire for jam bands there.
yeah, my first like dead music experience was Phil and J-Rad playing the New Year's show. And I was like listening through the floor, and then I would go up and like watch from the side of the stage a little bit while I was like cleaning some things up, and just fell in love with it. And that venue is obviously so special. So now, like having those like real life experiences made me fall in love with that music even more. And then Tom being in JRAD, just opened my eyes up to how to appreciate that kind of music.
And,
Yeah.
and so you jumped into American Babies. Was it the last album that
Yes.
you all put out? Like how, I'm just curious, like how did that come about? Because it seems like then you and Tom really kind of moved into Ghostlight with just a really solid foundation like behind you, which I feel like was probably a really great thing.
Yeah. I mean, the experience of helping Tom like do some like background vocals. Like I didn't write on that record, the epic battle of light, but the epic battle between light and dark. But that is me on the cover, which is funny. Like I feel like I look like a child when I look at that photo. But I mean, I kind of was. I was like just fresh out of college, so um, he gracefully like invited me into like the recording studio sessions, wanted me to be a part of it, wanted my voice because he needed a female voice on some of those songs. And he really showed me the ropes of like being in a touring band. I had never toured before, and American Babies was my first experience doing that. And I feel like that is what really built the strong foundation for us as co-workers and like musical inspirations for each other. And that built the trust of like, I'll help you learn how to do this, and I trust your ear, and just like know that you have the ability to do it. Just don't be like fearful. um and those early studio experiences are like, he had this tiny little studio in Underground Arts in Philly. And that's where he and his studio partner, he still is still studio partners with that person. His name is Pete Tramo. um that's where they wrote that record. And it's funny, there's like some video footage of us making that, and it's so crazy to watch it back. I'm like, wow, I was so fresh. Like I was just like at the ready, taking notes kind of thing in my head, at least.
So you're in American Babies, and then all of a sudden I heard the story is you're standing in a circle with Holly, Tom at Rittenhouse Soundworks, and that was the beginning of, I guess, what becomes Ghostlight. What was it like being? There's some heavy hitters, I guess, you were in the room with all of a sudden.
Well, she would sit in with American Babies at some festivals, which is like
Okay.
how that relationship
Oh,
started.
nice,
Um,
nice.
and it was sporadic. It was like also her first like getting into the scene of like festivals and stuff, because she had done, I guess, her like YouTube Fish covers, but was also doing some solo piano, just starting out doing those Grateful Dead piano covers. Um, and that's sort of how we built that little relationship of like, oh, she could be a really good fit if she's like down to be in a band. And that it was her first band ever. um So it was a big learning experience for her too. But yeah, being in a room with people who are so talented and have such great musical ears is like I would always want to surround myself with people who are better than me. Always. That's the only way that you get better at what you
I
do.
always say if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. And that's that's like definitely the world I always want to live in. Is that like I can always learn more from somebody else. So,
I hear you.
yeah.
You know, we've talked on your songwriting. A lot of jam band lyrics don't touch on more interpersonal things. They're either goofy songs or these blanket statements about sentiments about love. It seems
Mhm.
to me that you have a point of view as a lyricist in another place. Does that is that true? Are there like themes that you feel run through your work?
I think as far as lyrics go, like I I try to bring as much of myself to the table as I can because I feel like that's how you build community is like letting your cards show a bit. Like that intimacy is really special and that's how people connect to you.
And I think a lot
Um
of guys have trouble expressing that in their lyrics, maybe on
sure,
some
yeah.
level.
On some level for sure. And within our world it I think it depends on the band, but there are a lot of silly lyrics out there that I'm just like that I don't relate to that. Um but I write from my own experiences and like me trying to figure out my emotional well-being, whether that be like anger or sadness or heartbreak or whatever. But that stems from like classic singer-songwriter music like Joni Mitchell. I think for me, she is it. And I know people say that all the time, but it's like it's so true. She's a phenomenal writer, and her way of showing you her life experience through poetry, that is beyond. That is like the end all be all for
You got to
me.
get yourself out to the gorge for that
Oh
Brandy
my god.
Carlisle
I
thing.
I sat online. I was trying to get the tickets. There was like 1200 people in front of me in the queue. No
Even people in
tickets.
bands get stuck with that.
I never
No.
pictured that happening. I'm going to be totally honest. That's not like a mental image that I've had, but you know what? It's true, right? Like we all get stuck there.
Oh yeah, I mean Ticketmaster's a nightmare anyways, but like I so badly want to go to that show. I love Brandy Carlisle. Like the fact that Joni is playing a show at all is a miracle. Like
I saw
I'm
her in the
yeah.
early 2000s at Jazz Fest she played. And
Oh
whatever her new
yeah.
album was, she did the whole new album in Coyote and maybe Yellow Taxi, only one or two of her older songs.
Sure.
But and played this silvery white guitar, and it was noise. It was like Sonic Youth more than it was
It's so cool.
1970s
That's so
Joni.
cool. See, like her evolution, even as a musician, is so interesting. Jazz and then experiment, like that. That's it. For me, that's
So
it.
is that where your progression goes as a songwriter? Is that
I
what your
mean,
ultimate goal is to be able? I mean, she's very her lyrics. If you look at them on paper, don't read like a lyric. It is an A B
no,
A B.
exactly. Um, I mean, I think musically, if you, this has been said before, but if you can play a song just on acoustic guitar and you know that it's good or you feel that it's good, that's how, like it will stand the test of time. And it's really interesting to like have different soundscapes and stuff on like recorded music. But if it can translate to just an acoustic guitar or a piano, whatever, um, that uh, that is what I feel like Joni's songs can do, And if I could do that, I'm good. For me, that's it.
I was curious. Well, first of all, with Joni, yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to find someone who's just been more authentic to themselves over time in all those different incarnations. So
Mhm.
I love hearing people's takes on her because I think everyone kind of puts something out there that's really personal for them. One thing that you had mentioned that I was thinking about was the touring aspect of things, and that you had kind of come out of college and then really were kind of put into that scene. So I was just curious because this does come up sometimes for us. Like for you, what's touring life like? Do you enjoy it? Like what anything about it that you're like, meh, because it's a very unique place to be, even if you're out
Yeah.
a weekend at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I in my early touring, I felt so scared of doing something wrong on stage, and I think that many musicians can sort of relate to that, like working in fear. Um, just because putting yourself out there is really scary. So that's sort of where I lived for a while, and then even when Ghostlight did like our first tours, now I feel more confident as a musician, as a person on stage with myself as an adult. I think it's just like growing up too. You just feel more comfortable in your being. So I feel great in like what I can bring to the table and how I can connect with an audience. I love touring. I love going to different cities. I don't mind the long drives. It's hard. I have a lot. Like I wear a lot of hats when we're in the band. I help do the merch. Help design the merch. Um, I do all the social media for the band. So like that's all the forward facing stuff that you see. I'm the one putting all that stuff up. Um, so I love being in a band. I like creating something that can have a lasting impact, and uh, the touring aspect and connecting with the fans and meeting people at the merch table. Like I love going out after the shows if I have the energy, if we have the time, because sometimes we have to like drive an hour and a half or 2 hours after the show. Then we do the rest of the drive the next day. There was a lot of it that was like super overwhelming, caused me so much anxiety in the first half of Ghostlight, like the first 2 years. But after the pandemic, I was just like, I need this in my life. Like this is part of who I am. It makes you appreciate everything so much more. Something being taken away and then given back to you is like that's how you know to sort of put your ego or whatever in check. Like just because it's hard um doesn't mean that I don't want to do it. Like I just love it more now. Yeah, it just made me appreciate it so much
Do you
more.
guys do the bus? Do you do a van in hotels? How do you guys work it?
We don't have a bus. For a while we did a 15 passenger Ford Econoline van.
Nice.
And we put all of the gear in the back of the van. We've never toured with a trailer. We had like a meticulous Tetris style pack. It had to be the same every night, and it was filled to the brim. And then on the last tour that we did, the Northeast run in October, October we did like a record release tour in the Northeast. But we started in the Midwest. We started in like Chicago, St. Paul, and the van we had to take the van to the shop twice during that tour. And we're like, shit, we cannot do this anymore because this thing's on its last leg. Uh, the emergency brake got stuck, and we were like, what the fuck? It was such a nightmare. So on this last tour, we rented a Penske truck and we packed in that, and then we had a rental minivan for like the band members to ride in. So it's different every time now.
Well, we were talking to Dopapod. They were saying someone slept in the van sometimes just
Oh
because they
yeah.
were worried about. Well, he likes sleeping in the van because he got a few extra minutes sleep, but you
Hmm.
also don't have to worry about some knucklehead trying to run off with the van on you in the middle of the night.
Thankfully, that's never happened to us. Just pray to the gods it never
Make sure
does.
make sure the insurance is paid. My favorite band, the
Yeah.
Radiators, got all their gear stolen and the manager hadn't paid the insurance, so it was just
Oh,
gone. They got
brutal.
nothing.
Oh no. That is brutal. Yeah, no, thankfully that's never happened.
Who's
But
driving? That's always my thought. Like, do you
who
take?
drives?
That's
We
it.
all
That's
take turns.
yeah. You take turns.
Uh
That's so great. Drive
our
down the road and you see Tom behind the wheel of a van. That would be
Oh
kind of
yeah,
funny.
no, Tom is like the driver most of the time. He
Nice.
prefers driving. He gets car sick, so uh his Philly driving
Oh,
really
that
brings us
sucks.
all across the country.
For what
uh
he does for a living to get car sick, my God. It's like the
yeah, he
evil
can't
curse.
he's a terrible passenger, I'll tell you what.
head out the window. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So he drives a lot, but we all take turns for the most part, which is nice. It's a balanced life, and then we do have a sound engineer and a tour manager for the last few tours that we've done. We've had a sound engineer, which like he is fantastic at making us sound great and like adding cool effects to like some vocal stuff, and he's great at what he does. And then our tour manager is just like they bring so much fun energy and keep us positive on the road, so it's nice. It's a good group. It's small but mighty.
yeah. Kevin, you can edit this out, but your tour manager is Curtis, right?
Yeah.
We're have a friend circle that's similar. So I
Hmm.
follow like all of his travels, and just everything that he's done in his life is so amazing. And I could
It really,
definitely see like the sparkle that he would bring.
yes.
Yes, totally.
He's truly a joy to have on the road, and I'm so glad that he's a part of our community. He started selling merch for us years ago, and like it was such a low pressure thing
You
Yeah.
at
get
the
your foot in the
beginning.
door doing that.
Yeah.
Bob Weir's manager, Matt Bush.
Oh yeah, I know
He's
him.
he started as Low Favor and God Street Wine's merch guy, and then he
Exactly.
became their manager, and then he was Warren, then Phil. He kept trading off.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's a really kind person. He's yeah, I've met him quite a few times. But yeah, you have to like in those positions in the music business, you have to like just fight for your way through. And Curtis always made a point. He was like, I love this band. I want to watch you guys and help you guys grow. I'm here to support you. And like he did just
Is
that.
the album on a label,
We're
or
on
did you
Royal. Yeah,
self-release?
the label is Royal Potato Family, so that's Marco's label. Yeah, yeah, and they put out this record for us, and I want to say the first record. I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure that that was the case also. But it's not like a contract thing. It's just like
Distribution thing,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
So we're technically unsigned.
Right. Do you, is that a goal? Is that something that you sit down and you say, I want a record contract, or are you happy with getting a distribution deal and being in control maybe of your own destiny?
Well, the funny thing about record contracts these days is that like most of them don't really matter unless they're like a big label and they give you a bunch of money up front, but then you got to pay it all back. So it's like
Right. They take 85% or something of the
exactly, who wants
royalties.
that? That's not like a good deal. And um you know, thankfully we do have enough business like as a band without a label to play at the level that we do. It's a really special thing. Most bands don't even get to this point, so
Mm.
it's like we've put a lot of work into to building it from the ground up. And
Do you guys have people who like, yeah, Fish has the people who follow him around, and there were the Deadheads, and other bands have their smaller communities. Do you guys have something like that? You call your fans?
we do. I mean, we don't necessarily have a specific name, but I did say this on the internet the other day, or at least a couple weeks ago. I called them ghosties. It's like pretty
Nice.
silly. I was like, "What's up, little ghosties?" um, but I don't know. We do have a core group of fans that come and see us. We have one fan, Brian, who is so lovely and has come to like 13 shows. Um, and we just started doing these cool things. I came up with this idea of doing like stamp cards where you come to the merch table and there's like 6 circles on a stamp card. We have a custom Ghostlight stamp. Each show you come to, you get a stamp, and then you write in the information. And then at the if you come to 6 shows, you get a free T-shirt.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, it's like we do have like a good group of loyal fans that are helping us spread the word, and that's you gotta have it. You gotta have it. And I wanted to give back to them, so I like reached out on our little Facebook page. I was like, if anyone would like a thank you card for us supporting us this last year, I'm gonna collect like emails and addresses and try to get them out and like handwrite some thank you cards, because like that's the stuff. That's how you keep a supporting fan base. Show them that you care about them too.
I love
Yeah.
that. Oh my gosh, people would probably go crazy just to have something like that. It's so personal.
I
Um,
got like 150 comments, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh,
This
so you
was a good idea.
yeah.
I was like, okay, this I need a Google form. I'm gonna have to make a spreadsheet.
Oh, we love spreadsheets. That's
Yeah,
great.
gotta have a spreadsheet. So it'll be good in case, like, even if I want to send something random special to a fan someday, I'll have that collection of addresses. Why not? As long as they don't move. But yeah, it's really important to like email lists. Those things are important too. Yeah.
Right. Where do you want to jump to, Amanda?
I guess, so we've been talking about the album and touring and everything. For you personally, is there a room that you would really love to play in at some point, or like on a personal level? Are there things where you're just like, that would be like the ultimate for me?
I mean, I think a lot of people would say this, but definitely Red Rocks. I mean,
It's the
you,
place.
that's the place, or obviously the Gorge. That's like way past that, but that's way up there.
You have to make a pilgrimage if you want to go to the gorge.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, there's no hotels out there, none of that. But Red Rocks, I've seen Tom play there a couple times because he dragged me out to some when J Rad has played there, and like Billy and the Kids. And it is special. Like the backstage is so cool, and like the dream as a musician is to see yourself standing on that stage in between that valley of rocks on those epic steps. Have you guys seen shows there?
Yes.
Oh,
I s
yeah. Yeah.
She lives right around the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I saw Fish there in '93 and '94, and I saw Widespread open up for Blues Traveler on the 4th of July. I lived there for like 18 months.
Okay. That sounds
So,
awesome.
yes, it was. Well, you know who was huge back then and used to play Red Rocks, and you never hear about is Big Head Todd from Big
Oh
Head Todd
yeah.
and the Monsters.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
huge.
We've got a whole commemorative like area which is my favorite part of Red Rocks almost, is the museum that's kind of underneath, that you just walk through, and it's like the archives of Red
Oh, all the
Rocks.
signatures through the tunnel, like to
Um,
the sound.
that's backstage, and I agree. The backstage in Red Rocks is more unique than like anything. And I've gotten lost back there like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a number of occasions, embarrassingly, and been like, "Hello." But this is like when you're catching a show there. There's the concessions up top. There's
Yes.
like a staircase in the back
Okay.
that kind of is by the restaurant area, so like general population stuff. But then they've got
Mm.
this museum, and you walk through, and it starts with the very first season, in the 20s or 30s.
Right, right.
In fact, yeah. So I know you come across bands that maybe initially like you wouldn't think of, that have
Mm.
been instrumental, and that was such a big part of their career. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think Red Rocks is probably it. I mean, even to play there at all, but like to sell it out, that'd be that'd be pretty cool. you know.
It would be very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the hiatus. How did that affect? I mean, you've hit on some of it. It helped, I guess, with songwriting and stuff. How did that affect the band's operations? Did you just have to shut everything down and start over, or did your crew hang on with you?
I mean, I think shutting everything down, essentially we shut everything down, just because nobody was doing anything. And then like Holly lives in San Francisco, and then our bass player at the time lived in Denver. So what we do, you can't do that over live stream. That's not possible to
Right.
improvise the way that we do. Like, you have
You'd
to
need
be
a
in the
click
same
track.
room. Wouldn't even work for us. Um, that like we just couldn't do anything. And in reality, I think Tom really needed a break. Like, he's been going at it for years and has never taken time off.
I
So for
remember
him,
Brothers Past used to play at the 8x10 when I worked there in the early 2000s.
yeah, I mean, he's been going since then, and I think he really needed that. Like, he needed the mental break to like figure some stuff out for himself. Like, he and I lived together for 6 years, and it was really great to have that time. Like, we lived in the same house, but we did our own things. Um, and so I would like write a song in the middle of the night, and I could like just walk downstairs and be like, "Hey, do you want to hear this?" And that was like "Dig a Hole," the song "Dig a Hole" on our second record. Um, like I wrote it in the middle of the night and then played it, and he was like, "Yeah, we could do something with that." And then we like went to like he didn't even go to the studio that he had. Like we had just finished making the studio complete just when the world shut down. So we weren't even sure if we could like leave the house. Like he didn't leave the house at all for a long time, and then he finally felt comfortable going to the studio, which was just like 10 minutes from his house, so close. So we needed the break, I think, and then uh I think it was just a good restart button. You know, some bands really took advantage of that, like Goose doing like live streams. That's how they built a lot of their audience
My
and their
God, they
success now.
blew up.
It's great.
So they're going to
And
write books about that one day.
yeah, they used the time that they had, and they all live in the same place kind of, and that made it easy. And you know, I wish that could have been the case for us, but it just wasn't. And when we played our last show, man, like we had a great crowd at the Ogden. I don't think we sold it out, but we were close, and like
It's up
it,
on YouTube, that whole show.
yeah, and I felt so good about it. And it was like having the rug pulled out from underneath your feet. You're like, now we have to start essentially from zero again. And we kind of have done that. And just to like lose Holly and stop would be idiotic. Like, I don't think that's even in the cards. At least I
Is there
certainly
is
hope
there a
not.
front runner that you can give us?
I don't. We like haven't even like called about it. We haven't even had a call about it since our last show. So hopefully this weekend we'll actually chat about like what we want to make a plan for, and like when we could even plan auditions and stuff like that. When the next time we all want to get together is. But we definitely don't want to just like sit around. At least I certainly don't want to like sit around and wait. Until like summer season comes around and we play festivals, because the only show that we have right now is Peach Fest, um, and we don't even know who's going to be playing with us. So, but it'll work
I'm going
out.
to try to go to Peach Fest this year. I've never
Oh, you
made it there.
should. It's such a
I'm in
great festival.
Baltimore. I'm around the corner.
Oh my god, that's so close.
I need to do that. Like, you want to talk about the video for the healing? Is there a visual aspect to like your vision of the band?
So yes, I've always wanted to make music videos, especially with our music. I wanted to do it for the first album, and we did make a music video, but it did not turn out good. So we just canned it. We are like, no, this cannot be public. um, but with this record, my boyfriend is a movie editor, um, and our best friend Christian is a cinematographer. So they have like a little film thing together. So I utilized the people that I knew and knew would want to help and create wonderful art together. So they both did the Take Some Time video at the studio and the healing. But the concept for the healing, we wanted it to be like very much feel like a movie. Um, and Tom and I worked out ideas together for that. Like each verse is its own little story. Um, and we used the locations that we had available to us, like that the last scene where we're in the river is in the Wissahickon River in Philly. And
Is that safe?
you know, the water looked clean.
We go.
So
We just go with what we can see on the surface, and
I mean, it was a when we shot, it was like a beautiful morning, and the water was really clear. It was a little cold, but not that cold. Like it honestly wasn't bad at all. Um, and we found this house in Germantown that was like it looked it had this like vintage look to it. Like um, a lot of my visual inspiration comes from like the 1900s. The house that I grew up in was built in the 1700s, so it's like ancient in this old red house, big thick wood panel flooring or whatever. And like um I feel like a lot of my like history of like loving old things, my dad was an antique guy, like comes from that. So I see those things visually in my head, and I'm like, how can I incorporate that into the art? Like with with Faces in the Moon, that song, there's like sort of elements of that old style, like lyric wise. But yeah, we rented a place for a day, and the like scene where it's all sped up and we're having like arguments at the table. It's funny, like I was reflecting on that, and it's like didn't see that that would be like sort of a little bit of reality, but it kind of was. you know, uh but I like set decked all that stuff. Like the china on the table is like my great aunt's china. I like love doing all that artistic stuff. It's so fulfilling to have the music and the visuals be one. And me and Tom really love being the like force behind that. And he loves movies, so like he's got that in his brain.
It's such an art form that I feel like, growing up, it was everywhere, and you would really see these just massive cinematography projects around music. So I love when I can see something like that, and it's clear just all the thought and effort that goes into it to kind of share that story visually. I love it.
Videos are misaligned, and they shouldn't be. You guys did great. Humphreys, the silent type video, it's fantastic. I mean,
I'll have to
it's
check that out.
yeah. I think MTV kind of ruined it by the oversaturation, and it became just stupid.
Well,
They
they
ran
were
out of
silly.
ideas.
Yeah,
There's,
like the Foo Fighters videos are like super funny,
yeah,
that kind of thing, and that totally works for their band. Um, and like ours being like serious and dark and moody, like I think that totally works for us. But it is like such a wonderful art form that sometimes you don't get to do because you don't have the funds to do so, especially at like our level or lower. I'm sure there's tons of bands that want to make great music videos and just don't have those resources or the people the money to hire those people that can make it great. So we just got really fortunate in the fact that like I knew two people who were great at what they do, and the coloring on the music video is exactly what we needed it to be, and the editing, and they had a vision, and it just worked with what we needed it to work with. Yeah, it was really fulfilling to make two really good music videos for this record. If anything, I would love to make music videos for all the songs, but that's
a
just not
whole
in the
video
cards.
album.
I mean, people do it all the time. Like we thought
Mhm.
about it for the first album, where I like wrote up a whole treatment of like what each music video could be, and like I saw this like old west thing. Yeah, just I had so many visual ideas. It was so fun.
Next
But
time your guys are in the studio, you need to film a day, and then you have that as a basis.
yeah, I mean, I
But
have tons. I That's the thing too. I'm like sort of like the band archivist. I take tons of videos on my like camcorder when we're on tour, and then when we were in the studio, I have tons of stuff on my phone. I've got it all organized in certain folders, and I do have like a little plan of like, okay, how can I release these clips online as like a show how we made the album. I just don't my like editing is not my skill, so my boyfriend needs to like teach me some stuff, but
there you go. All right,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the hard question now. What are some of your personal philosophies on life and the universe and music and everything?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Save
um,
that one for the end.
my personal philosophies. Um, I think for a long time, like I said earlier, like I lived in fear of messing up, and being a female playing guitar in like a rock band is pretty scary when like you're just constantly surrounded by men, to be honest. um so I was scared that my ability was not good enough, or what I was bringing to the table was just not um what others could bring. But I've realized now, I'm 29, that what I can bring to the table is just so different from what anybody else can bring to the table. And I've put in the hours of practice uh, of my craft to feel good about what I do now.
It
Um,
is a boys' club, isn't it?
it is, and uh, it's always sort of been that way, and that's okay. Um, but
A
I'm
lot of
happy.
females were either just the singer or they were part of a girl group. for,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, but then I look at bands like Heart and I'm like, those fucking ladies kick some serious ass. And Anne can play the hell out of the guitar. Or Nancy, sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
Nancy can play the
Nancy,
hell out
right.
of the guitar. And like that is the confidence that I've always wanted to bring to the table. And my favorite band when I was a teenager was Paramore. And still is Paramore. And they're like a pop punk band, like,
Hmm.
and she's a female front woman, and I looked to her for so much inspiration. I would color my hair the same color as her when I was in high school. Like, I pulled so much of her confidence into my being as a musician. And um I think like part of my philosophy is that like just do your best, and like that's okay. Believe in yourself. Like I didn't believe in myself for a long time, even though I knew music was what I wanted to do. And I think I've finally come to the point in my life where I finally do believe in myself and my abilities and what I can create and bring to the table as an artist. Um, and to not give up, even though it's hard. Like touring is incredibly difficult. It's like one of the craziest jobs people can have. Um, I mean, that's relative. That's relative. There's so many
Right.
crazier jobs than
Well,
that. But like,
my ex-wife was wanted to be a singer, and we met Jane Monheit once, and she said, "Do you have any advice for me?" And Jane Monheit said, "No more than the boys."
yeah, um,
So,
you
but
know,
the confidence is key. I mean, that is so much of everything, you know. Well, when we
yeah,
first started this, I don't know how Amanda felt, but I was like, all right, well, we're really putting ourselves out here trying to call in, you know, famous to us musicians, maybe not famous to Rolling
sure,
Stone, but, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
um,
it goes in all areas. Kevin, I'm thinking about when we recently talked with Tony Brown, who was owner, led Relics magazine for such a long time, and like for me, that's an icon because of the work that she does, kind of
mm,
behind the scenes, off to the side of the stage, but so instrumental in so many things. That's someone that I definitely look up to and really just appreciate. So yeah, having that person that you can kind of say, well, look, they're doing this, I can do this too, but my own way, I think is so important. And you are doing that every time you play for people who are in the audience or hearing that recording too, for sure.
exactly. And like Relics magazine is one of the last actual music magazines still in print. Like
Yeah. They're the
it's
second longest continuously published music magazine in the United States. Boggles my mind. I used to
yeah,
read it in the 80s. I had a subscription. It got mailed to me once a month.
yeah, it's so cool. I mean, to have an article featured in Relics magazine for our album was huge. Like, I just that's those are like those little accomplishments where you're like, yes, I feel validated as a musician, and the hard work that you put in, like it will pay off. It just takes a while, and that's the thing too, is that like we've only been a band for like 5 years. It's gonna take like another five for people to be like, oh shit, this band is like really good. Like we just have a small audience right now, and that's okay. Like, but those audience members fucking love it.
It,
Like, and
it's
that's what it
it's
is.
it's very hard. The Hold Steady. They've been
Yeah,
together what 20, 25 years. They're playing a place in Baltimore called the Auto Bar that holds maybe 600, 700 people. That's all they're getting after 25 years. It's just crazy. And they're strong. They got, like you, it's the songwriting with them for me. The lyrics of it carry the whole thing.
yeah, yeah. It's like back to the like life philosophy thing. If you love something, you can't quit. Like just because I work at like a pet store a few days a week doesn't take away from the fact that I am a musician. Like that's all I think about. Like
Keep your day job till your night job pays, huh?
exactly. And like getting having a wage as a musician, like even at our level, like it's not enough for a long time. Um, you know.
How do you teach songwriting? I saw that one of the things when you offer for lessons was teaching songwriting. I ran like poetry workshops in college and things like that. How do you like tell someone, this is how you write a song, or do you let them bring it and then you critique it and say maybe if we did this or move the chorus?
Sure, yeah, I've done both of those things. when I work with kids and we're writing songs, I have one student who I've had for like 2.5 years, and we've written like 7 songs together. And she's 12 now. Um, but to like, I'll have a conversation with them and be like, what do you think you want to write a song about? We'll talk about topics. We'll do like a free write thing where you write for 5 minutes, like all the thoughts that come to your head, and then go over like basic song structure and like rhyming schemes and sort of things like that. And like I'll come up with the chord progression and maybe the melody, and we'll rework lyrics together. But it's a very much a collaborative thing when I like write with my songwriting students. It's really cool. It's like I don't co-write with anybody except for Tom. So to write with people who are just like sort of strangers, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Like very intimate.
One of my favorite things to do, we're going to diverge. One of my favorite things to do I would give them 5 words, and I'd say write a poem next week that includes these 5 words, and throw in like
Totally.
rhinoceros or something to really force them into metaphor, or, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, writing exercises are so good. Like, if anything, I don't do those enough for myself to just like force myself to like have some structure. But I like giving it to my students as like assignments.
That's
uh,
okay.
yeah, do do as I say, not as I do. I guess,
At
but
8, so great though, because they're really starting to think about things in a different way as
mhm.
they age, and they're more aware of the world around them and everything. And I bet that they come up with some really, really fun and
Yeah,
awesome stuff.
12. That's crazy that she's
Mhm.
12 and it's 2 years you've been working with her.
Yeah, she lives in Seattle, and her dad is a huge fan of the band. He came out to like 4 shows this past fall, and I finally got to meet her in Seattle when we played at Nectar Lounge, and uh, it was so cool. Like I've known her for years, and just over the internet. Like
That's so neat.
it's so weird, and it
Wait till
was
she starts falling in love and you're writing a bunch of love songs.
exactly, yeah. Who knows how long we'll write songs together for. But I showed her like my whole rig, and like she came on stage while we were doing sound check, and or like setting up for sound check, and
And you made her life. You made her life up to that point. You did. That's
it
fantastic.
was
That's what
really
it's all
fun.
about,
Hmm. Yeah, and I like building those connections with people is like that. That's I love that. Like I learned to write songs at a summer camp, a creative arts summer camp, and I was a student from like 13 to 18, and then I became a counselor because you age out, and then I became a teacher. So I did that for like 13 summers.
Wow.
And it's still a summer camp. It's in Connecticut. It's called YPI, and it's all arts, photography, acting, songwriting, poetry, dance. It's all of those
Nice.
things, and it's a really free creative space, and that sort of helped build the foundation for like me as an artist to feel comfortable sharing myself with
That's the
people.
hardest thing. I always likened it to
Community.
you're throwing your child out there to be slaughtered when you show
Totally.
your something to the world.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's so scary. But like that helped build that confidence of like,
And
see, you could do
confidence is
it.
key.
Just yeah, confidence is key. Fake it till you make it, baby. Like
Yep. That's what they said. So,
yeah.
Amanda, you got anything before we get out, or?
Honestly, I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing so much about yourself and the things that are really meaningful to you. It gives a whole new perspective, I think, listening to your music and just the experience of all of that. So I'm just really grateful for that.
So, are
Oh,
you
thank you
guys
so much.
are you guys thinking next album already, or are you just going to ride this for a little further?
I think we're gonna ride it for a little while longer. We don't have any real plan at the moment. We definitely
Right.
want to like just book
But I
some
guess you
shows
are
and
in you're in limbo
we're
a little
in
bit.
limbo. We're in music
Uh,
limbo,
and
and
you said your only show was Peach Fest that's on the books now.
right now,
So,
yeah,
so
yep.
hopefully you'll pop up at some other festivals and
Hopefully, yeah, and get some. Maybe we'll have like a small spring tour, but it's tough. Like you have to book all that shit out like super far in
and a
advance.
Denton Company announced in October for June.
Oh wow,
I
yeah.
was like,
I thought that was a misprint.
yeah.
So I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm
wait, what day
all
is it?
yeah, you plan a year in advance when you're in a band. That way
Mhm.
everybody else can plan their lives. Like if you
Right.
want to do other shows, other projects, other things. So, yeah, when someone leaves the band, it definitely throws a wrench in things. But we want to
Do
play like we want to play more than like fucking 80 shows a year. Like that's what you have to do to build an act. You can't play
right.
40 shows and expect people to know who you are. Like
Right.
that's not
You got to
possible.
make it out to Bozeman and
Oh, I love
shit like
Bozeman.
that.
Bozeman's so great. Yeah. Yeah, do all those places. And plus, it's the coolest job ever. You get to like hop in a car and see the whole country. What the hell? Nobody gets to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
And in a really like personal way, places you would probably either never get to otherwise or not in that kind of situation,
yeah,
which
100%.
is really, I agree. It's very special.
Yeah, that's why I'm so grateful for like what it is that we do. Like even if it is at a smaller level at the time, like I fully believe in what we do as a band and if we keep going out there and doing it, like
So
why
much
wouldn't it
potential.
work eventually? Yeah, so much
You
potential.
have you really have your foot a little bit in the college radio area, for lack of a better term, with some of the songs you do. I could see your songs getting played in that kind of format, and then the people showing up and being like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah, getting thrown for a loop being like, "What are they doing?"
wait, that's
Yeah.
almost 20 minutes. That's the same song."
That's the same song. Yes, yeah, totally. I mean, I was a college radio station manager at my college, so I love college radio. So,
Nice.
Big fan. We have
yeah.
WTMD down here in Maryland from Towson, and it's the greatest radio station in the country. I can turn it on, and everything they play, you're like, that's a fantastic song. Whoever their
Mhm.
playlist, whatever
Exactly.
programmer is on top of it.
You have, I don't know if you would have access to WLVR where you are out of Bethlehem.
I don't think we do, but I could always listen to it on the internet probably.
Yeah, that was
What is it?
WLVR. That was so I went to Lehigh in Bethlehem
Okay.
as undergrad, and yeah, the radio station there was great because it was community radio and college radio. Like
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
we were working with people who that was their career, and so we learned a ton from
Mhm.
being there. I'm with you. It's a great place to just like dig into stuff and
Yeah.
explore all kinds of music.
Yeah, I mean, I started as the music librarian and then I was a music director and then I was the station manager and like planning all the events and stuff. It was just the most fun. And that's how I got a job at the Capitol Theater. Like, if it wasn't for me working at the radio station, like, all those things sort of play through. Yeah, I love discovering new music, and I definitely did a lot of that in college. Went to like the College Music Journal Festival, which they don't do anymore, the CMJ Fest in New York City. That was wild. I was like just freshly 21 drinking in New York City bars and like going to like these crazy shows during the middle of the week. I was like, this is it, man. This is it.
This is life.
That's right. I need more of this.
Yeah, yeah. And then I worked at a venue, so it totally
Uh,
worked out.
You got it. Yeah, I love
so,
it.
where can we find you online?
You can find the band at Ghostlight Band is like our handle on most platforms, and then our website I believe is ghostlightband.com, and I run all of those. And then my personal is at Raina Mullen. That's super straightforward, just my name, and you'll find it.
It's easy.
And then sometimes I'm trying to grow my TikTok following just because that's how people gain new audience members too. So I'm trying to do that for myself as of now and just like put some covers up there. That's sort of, I guess, the place to start. I used to
You do
upload
a
covers to YouTube all the time when I was in high school. And
you
now like look
did.
back and I'm like, oh, that's so embarrassing. Why did I do that?
Oh no, there some of them were really good. I
Yeah.
watched a bunch of what you did. Getting up for this, and when you put your name in YouTube, a lot of that is what shows up.
I know, yeah. So it helped me learn songs. Like that's the thing. You learn someone else's songs, and you bring it to your songwriting. So that it totally helped. But yeah, so that's where you can find us. I got website rainamullen.com, and you can find like a little lesson
And if you
submit
go to your
form if you want to
website,
take lessons.
if someone wants to go to your website, they can get a lesson and
Mm-hmm.
learn a little bit
Yeah.
about songwriting or
Learn about
playing the guitar.
songwriting or guitar, electric guitar. Yeah. Hang out with
All
me
right.
and my
Well,
cat.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a
That's
real
awesome.
pleasure.
And
Yeah.
hold on for a sec after I stop, so we're sure we got the whole thing.